Taeyang Kim stared at his computer screen in the quiet research lab. Something was wrong. He had watched the security footage 3 times already, and each time he saw the same strange thing. The Varaxian ambassador had flinched. Not from a threat, not from a loud noise. The massive reptilian warrior had pulled back when Taeyang looked at him. It made no sense. The Varaxians were famous across the galaxy as fearless fighters. They came from a death world where everything wanted to kill you. Their soldiers never showed fear. Yet in that meeting room, when Taeyang had simply made eye contact during their conversation, the ambassador had reacted like a prey animal. Taeyang rubbed his tired eyes. He had been working on the Coalition research vessel for 2 years now. His job was to study how different alien species communicated with each other. Body language, facial expressions, all the little signals that helped thousands of different species work together in peace. But he had never noticed this before. He played the video again. The moment was clear. The Varaxian's yellow eyes had met his own, for just 1 second. Then the alien's pupils had grown wide. Its scales had stood up along its neck, and it had looked away fast like it had touched something hot. Taeyang saved the video file and stood up. His office was small and cluttered with papers and alien artifacts. Photos of his family back on Earth sat on his desk. His parents had been so proud when he joined the Coalition science program. Humanity was still new to galactic society. Only 50 years since first contact. Every human who worked in space was a pioneer. He needed to talk to someone about this. Someone who would understand. Taeyang left his office and walked through the curved corridors of the research vessel. The ship housed scientists from 40 different species. He passed a group of insect-like Chitauri comparing notes. A tall, blue-skinned Pelleran nodded at him in greeting. Everyone seemed relaxed and normal. The medical bay was 3 levels down. Taeyang found Mira Choi organizing medical supplies in one of the storage rooms. She looked up and smiled when he entered. Mira had been his friend since training. She was the ship's medical officer, and also studied behavioral psychology. If anyone could help him make sense of this, it was her. "Taeyang," she said, "you look worried." "What's wrong?" He pulled out his tablet and showed her the video. Mira watched it twice, her face growing more serious. When it finished, she sat down slowly on a supply crate. "I've seen this before," she said quietly. Taeyang felt his heart beat faster. "You have? When?" Mira stood and locked the storage room door. She pulled up files on her own tablet. 3 months ago, I was treating a Krell officer. You know the Krell? Those big cat-like predators from the outer reach? He needed surgery. Simple procedure. But when I explained what I was going to do, I looked him in the eyes like I always do, with patience. He panicked. His heart rate jumped. He started sweating. I had to sedate him just to calm him down. "Did you report it?" Taeyang asked. "I thought it was just medical anxiety," Mira said. "Lots of species get nervous around doctors. But now that you show me this..." She trailed off, thinking hard. "Wait here." She left the room and came back 10 minutes later with more files. "I checked my records. Every predator species I've treated shows elevated stress when I make direct eye contact. Lions, bears, wolves. Back on Earth, they're all apex predators, right? Same thing here. Every alien species that evolved as a top hunter shows the same response to humans looking at them." Taeyang felt cold. "But the prey species don't." "No," Mira said. "The herbivores, the herd animals, the species that evolved being hunted. They're fine with eye contact. It's only the predators that react." They spent the next 4 hours going through security footage from all over the ship. The pattern was impossible to ignore. Every time a human made direct eye contact with a predator species, there was a reaction. Sometimes small, sometimes obvious, but it was always there. The predators would look away. Their bodies would tense. Some would even back up a step. "We need to tell someone," Taeyang said. "This is big. This could affect everything about how we interact with other species." Mira nodded. "Commander Park, she'll know what to do." They found Commander Nari Park in her office reviewing diplomatic reports. She was a stern woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and gray hair pulled back tight. She had served in the Korean military before joining the Coalition Diplomatic Corps. Nothing surprised her easily. But this did. Commander Park watched their compiled evidence in silence. When they finished presenting their findings, she sat back in her chair and stared at the ceiling for a long moment. "How many years of footage did you review?" she asked. 5 years, Taeyang said. Every diplomatic meeting, every medical appointment, every casual interaction we could find. The pattern holds. And it's only predator species? Yes, Commander, Mira confirmed. Only the hunters show fear. The prey species are comfortable with human eye contact. Commander Park stood and walked to her window. Outside, stars streamed past as the ship traveled through space. "Do you understand what you're telling me?" she said softly. "You're saying that every warrior race in the galaxy is instinctively afraid of us, of humans. Just from looking at us, it appears that way," Taeyang said. The commander turned back to face them. "I've been negotiating with these species for 10 years. The Vraxians, the Krell, the Talon clans, all of them. I've always wondered why they gave us such favorable terms, why they seemed so willing to compromise. I thought it was respect for human military prowess. But this, you think they've been afraid the whole time?" Mira asked. "I think we need to find out," Commander Park said. She touched a control on her desk. "This is Commander Park. I need a secure meeting room prepared. Priority level 1, and get me Hyun Lee from security. We're going to need his expertise." Hyun Lee arrived 20 minutes later. He was a compact man with alert eyes and quick movements. He had served in special forces before joining the coalition. His job was to protect the human delegation and assess security threats. He listened to their presentation without interrupting. When they finished, he leaned forward. "I've noticed this in combat simulations," he said. "When we train with coalition forces, the predator species always hesitate before engaging human opponents. I thought it was cultural. A respect thing. But if it's biological, then humanity's entire relationship with the coalition might be built on fear." Commander Park finished. Fear that no one understood or acknowledged. The four of them sat in silence. Outside the window, a coalition patrol ship passed by. Inside it would be warriors from a dozen species. All of them fierce. All of them brave. All of them apparently instinctively afraid of meeting a human's eyes. "We need to understand why," Taeyang said. "What is it about human eyes that triggers this response? What makes us different?" Mira pulled up an image of a human eye on her tablet. "I have some theories, but we'll need to run tests, controlled experiments with willing subjects." Commander Park nodded. "Do it, but keep this quiet. If word gets out before we understand what's happening, it could cause a panic. Or worse, it could start a war. Predator species don't like feeling afraid. They especially won't like knowing that they've been afraid of us this whole time." Taeyang felt the weight of what they had discovered settle on his shoulders. They had stumbled onto something fundamental. Something that had been hiding in plain sight since humans first joined the galactic community, and now they had to figure out what it meant. Before anyone could speak, Commander Park's communication device beeped. She answered it, listened, then looked up with a grim expression. "The Vraxian ambassador just requested an emergency meeting," she said. "He wants to discuss what happened during his conversation with Taeyang. He seems upset." The testing lab was cold and sterile. Mira Choi checked the biometric sensors one more time. Heart rate monitors, brain activity scanners, hormone level detectors. Everything was working perfectly. Now they just needed their first volunteer. Commander Park had approved the research project but made it classified. Only a handful of people knew what they were studying. The official story was that they were testing new communication protocols. The truth was far more sensitive. Their first subject was a Krell officer named Rask. He was typical of his species. Tall and muscular with golden fur and sharp teeth. The Krell were ambush hunters on their home world. Fast and deadly, they served as shock troops in the coalition military. Rask had volunteered without knowing what the test was really about. "Thank you for helping us," Mira said as she attached the sensors to Rask's arms and head. "This won't hurt. We're just measuring your body's responses during conversation." Rask nodded. His baseline readings were normal, calm and relaxed. Taeyang sat in a chair across from him. Between them was a clear table with nothing on it. No barriers. No distractions. "We're going to have a simple conversation," Taeyang explained. "Just talk about your day, your duties, anything you want." They started talking. Taeyang kept his eyes down, looking at his notes. Rask spoke easily about his training exercises and his team. The monitors showed normal stress levels. Everything was fine. Then Taeyang looked up. He met Rask's eyes and held the gaze. The monitors went crazy. Rask's heart rate jumped by 30% in 2 seconds. His stress hormones spiked. His pupils dilated wide. The brain scans showed activity in the ancient fear centers of his mind. the same parts that activated when prey animals sensed a predator. Rask broke eye contact immediately. He looked confused. Sorry, what were we discussing? Taiyang looked back down at his notes. Within seconds, Rask's readings returned to normal. They tried it 3 more times during the conversation. Every single time Taiyang made eye contact, Rask's body reacted with fear. And every time, Rask didn't seem to consciously realize it was happening. They tested 12 more subjects over the next week. Vraxians, Talons, Razor Claws, every predator species they could find volunteers from. The results were identical. Direct eye contact with a human triggered an automatic fear response. The subjects couldn't control it. Most didn't even notice it was happening. It's completely instinctive, Mira explained to the group during their evening meeting. The thinking part of their brain doesn't register the fear. But the old primitive part does. The part that kept their ancestors alive. But why? Commander Park asked. What makes human eyes so special? Mira pulled up images on the wall screen. Human eyes. Then eyes from various predator species. Look at the differences. Most predators have eyes that blend with their face. Dark sclera. The white part? That's almost unique to humans. It makes our gaze direction obvious. Everyone can see exactly where we're looking. Taiyang studied the images. So other species can't tell where predators are looking. But they can always tell with us. Exactly, Mira said. And there's more. Humans can maintain eye contact for minutes without blinking much. Most predators can't do that. Their eyes are designed for scanning. Quick movements. But humans, we can lock onto a target and just stare. Without moving. Without blinking. For as long as we want. Hyun-Lee spoke up from his corner. I've used that in interrogations. Just staring at someone. It makes them uncomfortable. I thought it was a psychological thing. It is, Mira said. But it's rooted in biology. Human eyes evolved for a specific type of hunting. We didn't ambush prey like cats. We didn't chase them down in quick bursts like wolves. We did something different. Something that no other species in the galaxy seems to have done. She pulled up footage from Earth. Old videos of human hunters in Africa. Men running across open plains, following animals for hours, sometimes days. Persistence hunting, Mira said. Humans evolved to chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. An antelope can outrun a human easily, but it can't run for 8 hours in the heat. Humans can. We would track an animal, chase it, let it rest, then chase it again. Over and over, never letting it recover, never stopping, until it was too tired to run anymore. The room was quiet. Everyone watched the footage of human hunters moving steadily across the landscape. Not fast, not flashy, just constant and unstoppable. Our eyes evolved for that, Mira continued, to track prey across vast distances, to focus on one target and never lose it. The white sclera helps other hunters in our group see what we're tracking. The ability to stare without blinking helps us maintain focus for hours. Everything about human eyes is designed for relentless pursuit. Commander Park stood and walked closer to the screen. And when a predator species looks into human eyes, some part of them recognizes this. They see a hunter that doesn't give up, that never stops coming. Exactly, Mira said. Every predator in the galaxy evolved to know when they're outmatched. When they see something that can hunt them, it's survival instinct, and human eyes trigger that instinct. Taiyang felt a strange mix of pride and unease. So we're not just predators to them. We're a specific type of predator, the type that chases you until you can't run anymore. The scariest type, Hyun-Lee said quietly. I've hunted dangerous targets. The ones who fight back are easy to predict. But the ones who just keep following you hour after hour, never getting tired, never giving up, those are the ones that break you mentally before they ever catch you. Mira nodded. That's what other species see when they meet our eyes. A predator that will follow them forever, that will track them across space and time, that will never stop until they're caught. Commander Park turned back to face them. We need to understand the full implications. Hyun, what do military records show about human performance in coalition exercises? Hyun-Lee pulled up data on his tablet. I've been reviewing combat simulations since we started this project. The pattern is clear. When human units face predator species, we win 73% of the time. When we face prey species, the ratio drops to 55%. Almost even. Because the predators hesitate, Taeyang said. Yes, Hyun confirmed. In simulations and real combat, predator species show a consistent delay when engaging human opponents. Just a fraction of a second. But in combat, that's enough to decide who wins. Commander Park sat down heavily. So humanity's reputation as fierce warriors isn't entirely earned. It's partially biological. The enemy is afraid before the fight even starts. Not afraid, Mira corrected. Wary, cautious, like any predator facing something dangerous. It's actually a sign of intelligence. They recognize a threat and respond appropriately. Will they see it that way? Commander Park asked. When they find out? When they learn that they've been instinctively frightened of us? How will warrior cultures react to that knowledge? No one had an answer. The implications were staggering. Humanity had been part of the Galactic Coalition for 50 years. They had built alliances, made trade agreements, formed military partnerships, all while every predator species they dealt with was unconsciously afraid of them. We need to dig deeper, Taiyang said. This can't be a secret just on our side. The Coalition has been studying species interactions for thousands of years. They must know something. Commander Park nodded slowly. You're right. Start looking into Coalition records, historical data, first contact reports. If this is real, if it's this obvious, someone must have noticed before. Over the next 3 days, Taeyang buried himself in the Coalition database. He read through decades of reports, psychological studies, behavioral analyses, and slowly a picture began to form. Small notes here and there, comments about humans making excellent negotiators, observations about how predator species were unusually cooperative in human presence, recommendations to place human observers in volatile situations. It was all there, hidden in plain sight. The Coalition knew. They had always known. The question was, what were they doing with that knowledge? Taeyang found Commander Park in her office late one evening. She was staring out the window at the stars. He placed his tablet on her desk without saying anything. She looked at the files he had compiled. Her face grew darker with each page. They've been using us, she said finally. Placing humans strategically, using our effect on predators to maintain control. To keep the peace. It appears so, Taeyang said. Commander Park closed the files. We need to confront them. The High Council. They owe us the truth. And if they admit it? Taeyang asked. If they confirm that humanity was recruited specifically to be the galaxy's guard dogs. What then? The Coalition High Council chamber was enormous. It floated in orbit around the capital world, a massive station that had been the center of galactic government for 3,000 years. Commander Nari Park walked through the entrance hall with Taeyang, Mira, and Hyun, following close behind. Their footsteps echoed in the vast space. They had requested this meeting 2 weeks ago. The council had made them wait, made them submit their evidence, made them justify why humanity deserved answers. But finally, they had been granted an audience. The council chamber itself was circular, with seats rising in tiers around a central floor. Representatives from 200 species sat in those seats, but the 5 High Council members sat on a raised platform at the far end. They were the real power in the coalition. The speaker of the council was a being called Ilara. She belonged to a prey species called the Luminari. Tall and graceful, with silver skin and large, gentle eyes. Her people had founded the coalition 5,000 years ago. They had built it as a refuge from predator species that hunted them across the stars. Commander Park, Ilara said, her voice soft but clear, you have presented serious allegations. You claim that the coalition has manipulated humanity for its own purposes. These are grave accusations. Commander Park stepped forward. She had rehearsed this moment many times. We don't make accusations, Speaker. We present facts. We have documented evidence that predator species show involuntary fear responses to human eye contact. We have found coalition records showing that this effect has been known and utilized for decades. We simply want the truth. Ilara was quiet for a long moment. The chamber was silent. 200 species watched and waited. Finally, the speaker stood. Very well, she said. You deserve honesty. Yes, we knew. We knew from the moment we first encountered your species. The admission hit like a physical blow. Even though they had suspected, hearing it confirmed was different. Taeyang felt his hands clench into fists. Ilara continued. When our first contact team met with human representatives, they noticed the effect immediately. Every predator species on that team showed stress responses, fear responses. It was unprecedented, so we studied you. We learned about your evolution, your hunting methods, your persistence. And you said nothing, Commander Park said, her voice hard. You welcomed us into the coalition. You gave us positions of authority. You placed us in strategic locations, all without telling us why. Because you were exactly what we needed, another council member spoke up. He was from a species called the Gentle Ones, small, peaceful beings who had almost been wiped out by predator raids centuries ago. The coalition was failing, Commander. Predator species were growing bold. They raided our worlds. They took what they wanted, and we had no way to stop them without massive bloodshed. Ilara nodded. Then we found you. Humans, apex predators who made other predators hesitate. Your presence alone was enough to make the most violent species think twice. You were the solution we had been searching for. So you used us, Hyun Lee said from behind Commander Park. We were weapons, tools. You were partners, Ilara corrected. Everything we offered humanity was genuine. The technology, the trade agreements, the access to the galaxy. We gave you all of this freely. Yes, we benefited from your presence. But you benefited too. Mira stepped forward. How many conflicts were prevented because of us? How many wars stopped because humans were present? Ilara's expression was sad. Hundreds. In 50 years, humanity has prevented more violence than any other initiative in coalition history. Your diplomats, your soldiers, your scientists, all of you carry this effect. And it has saved millions of lives. The chamber erupted in noise. Representatives began arguing. Some defended the council's actions. Others demanded answers. Predator species in particular were shouting. The Vraxian delegation looked furious. The Krell were on their feet. A Vraxian commander pushed forward to the speaking floor. It was Ambassador Krax, the same one who had met with Taeyang weeks ago. His scales were dark with anger. You knew, Krax roared at the council. You knew we were afraid and you said nothing. You made us look weak. You made warriors into cowards. Ilara remained calm. You are not cowards, Ambassador. You are wise. Fear is not weakness. It is survival instinct. Every species recognizes danger. That is intelligence, not cowardice. Easy for you to say. Krax shot back. You prey species built this coalition to protect yourselves. You found humans and used them as guard dogs. And you never told us. We have been manipulated. Other predator representatives voiced their agreement. The chamber descended into chaos. Commander Park watched it all with a heavy heart. This was what she had feared. The truth was tearing the coalition apart. Taeyang leaned close to her. We started this. We need to stop it. Commander Park nodded. She raised her voice, cutting through the noise. Enough! The chamber quieted. All eyes turned to her. She felt the weight of those gazes. Hundreds of species, prey and predator, all watching the human. The council made mistakes, she said. They should have been honest from the beginning. But ask yourselves this. Would you have wanted to join a coalition that admitted it needed you because you were frightening? Would that have been better? She turned to face the predator species. And to you warriors, you're angry because you feel manipulated. I understand. But you're also angry because you're ashamed. Ashamed that you feel fear when looking at humans. Well, let me tell you something. That fear is wisdom. It means your ancestors survived long enough to pass on their instincts. Any species that doesn't recognize danger is already extinct. Krax stared at her. For a moment, their eyes met. Commander Park didn't look away. She held his gaze steadily. After a few seconds, the Vraxian broke contact and looked down. You see? Krax said bitterly. Even now, even knowing what it is, I still cannot hold a human stare. Because your instincts are good, Hyun-Lee said, stepping forward. On my world, we have a saying. The warrior who doesn't know fear is a dead warrior. Fear keeps you sharp, keeps you alive. What matters is what you do with that fear. A Krell representative spoke up. Pretty words. But this changes nothing. The coalition has been built on lies. How can we trust anything now? By moving forward honestly, Mira said. Now that we all know the truth, we can build something real. Something based on understanding, not manipulation. Ilara descended from the council platform. She walked to the center of the chamber, standing near the human delegation. The doctor is right. We made mistakes. We kept secrets. But the choice now is yours. All of yours. We can tear the coalition apart over past deceptions. Or we can acknowledge what happened and decide together how to move forward. And what about humans? A small voice called out. It was from a prey species representative. What do they think about all this? They were used to. Don't they get to be angry? Commander Park considered this. We are angry. We feel betrayed. But we also understand why it happened. And we've benefited enormously from coalition membership. Our people have access to the stars, to technology, to knowledge. Was it worth being used as a deterrent? I don't know. That's for every human to decide. Taeyang added. What I know is this. The effect is real. It's biological. It can't be changed. So the question isn't whether it exists. The question is what we do about it. Do we hide it and pretend, or do we acknowledge it and work with it? And to thoughtfulness. Representatives were considering the words carefully. Cracks spoke again, calmer this time. If we acknowledge this, if we accept that humans have this effect, what changes? Do humans get special authority? Special power? No, Commander Park said firmly. We don't want power over anyone. We just want transparency. If humans are placed somewhere as peacekeepers or mediators, everyone should know why. No more secrets, Alara nodded. We can agree to that. Full transparency and education programs. Every species should understand the biological factors that influence our interactions. Another council member stood. We should also establish guidelines. Humans should be trained in how to use this effect responsibly, or how not to use it at all, in sensitive situations. The discussion continued for hours. Proposals were made. Compromises reached. Slowly, painfully, a new understanding began to form. It wasn't perfect. Many were still angry. Many still felt betrayed. But they were talking, working together. As the session finally ended, Cracks approached the human delegation. He looked uncomfortable but determined. Commander Park, I need to say something. She turned to face him. Yes, Ambassador? My people, the Vraxians, we pride ourselves on courage, on strength, learning that we fear humans. It is difficult. Shameful even. He paused, struggling with the words. But you were right. Fear is wisdom. I needed to hear it from a warrior, from someone who understands combat. Thank you, Commander Park nodded respectfully. Your honesty takes courage, Ambassador. More courage than hiding from uncomfortable truths. Cracks managed a smile. Then he did something unexpected. He met her eyes. For just a moment. It was brief. His instincts still made him look away. But he had tried. That meant something. As they left the council chamber, none of them knew that this moment of understanding would be tested sooner than anyone expected. Because at that very moment, coalition sensors at the edge of known space had detected something. Something that would make their current. The emergency alert reached them 3 days after the council meeting. Hyun Lee was in the training facility when his communicator started screaming, "Red alert, maximum priority. Report to command immediately." He ran. The command center was chaos. Officers from dozens of species rushed between stations. Screens showed tactical displays filled with red markers. Hyun found Commander Park standing at the central hologram display with Taeyang and Mira. The hologram showed a section of space at the edge of coalition territory. What happened? Hyun asked. Commander Park didn't look away from the display. First contact with a hostile force. They're calling themselves the Swarm. 50 ships appeared at the border 6 hours ago. They destroyed our sensor station without warning. No communication. No demands. Just attack. Taeyang pointed to the tactical data. Look at their formation. Pure ambush predator tactics. They jump in, hit hard, and disappear. Fast, overwhelming force. It's designed to cause panic. It's working, Mira said quietly. Coalition forces in that sector are pulling back. Some are retreating without even engaging. A Vraxian officer approached. It was Cracks. He had been assigned as military liaison after the council meeting. His face was grim. Commander Park, my government has analyzed the enemy tactics. They use psychological warfare. Fast strikes. Overwhelming displays of force. It triggers fear responses in defending troops, especially in predator species. Because predators are used to being the scary ones, Hyun said. When something scarier shows up, they panic. Exactly, Cracks confirmed. The prey species are handling it better. They're used to being afraid. But my people, we freeze, we hesitate. This enemy knows how to break predator morale. Commander Park studied the tactical display. What do we know about their biology? Their culture? Almost nothing, Taeyang said. They don't communicate. They just attack. Our xenobiology teams are working with what little debris we've recovered. But so far, nothing useful. An alert sounded. The hologram updated. More red markers appeared. The swarm fleet had moved deeper into coalition space. They were heading toward populated systems. We need to stop them, Crack said. But every fleet we send pulls back before engaging. The psychological effect is too strong. We need a solution. Hyun looked at Commander Park. She looked back at him. They both knew what the other was thinking. Humans, Mira said. You're thinking of sending human forces. It makes sense, Hyun said. If the swarm uses intimidation tactics and humans don't intimidate easily, we might be immune to their psychological warfare. Commander Park shook her head. We don't have enough human military assets to stop a fleet that size. Even if we're immune to their tactics, we're badly outnumbered. Then we need to boost morale in the existing forces, Taeyang suggested. Put humans in every combat unit. Use our presence to steady the predator species. Krax was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke carefully. There is another option. A traditional one. Among my people, when tactics fail, we resort to single combat, champions fighting to decide the outcome. The swarm doesn't communicate, Commander Park said. How would we challenge them? Not them, Krax said. He turned to face Hyun directly. Me, I challenge you. In front of both our peoples. To prove the predator species can face humans. To restore confidence in our warriors. The command center went quiet. Everyone was listening now. You want to fight me? Hyun asked. Now? With an invasion happening? Not fight, Krax said. Hunt, the traditional way. 7 days on a neutral world. Survival skills only. No weapons. No technology. Predator against predator. If I can overcome my instinctive fear of you. If I can face you as an equal, it will inspire others. It will show that the effect can be beaten. Commander Park started to object, but Hyun held up a hand. He's right. This isn't about individual combat. It's about proving something to the galaxy, that biological responses can be overcome. That courage matters more than instinct. You could die, Mira said. Vraxians are bigger and stronger than humans. Their natural weapons alone. I know, Hyun said. But if we don't do something to restore morale, more people will die. Entire worlds will fall. This is bigger than me. Commander Park looked at Krax. Why? Why offer this challenge? You could just order your forces to fight despite their fear. Krax's expression was pained. Because I need to know. For myself. Can I overcome this? Am I truly brave or am I just pretending? My warriors feel the same. They need to see that it's possible. 2 days later, they stood on a wilderness world called Caven 9. The planet was harsh. Dense forests. Rocky mountains. Dangerous native predators. Perfect for a hunt. Millions watched via orbital cameras. Every species in the coalition. The rules were simple. 7 days. No technology. Survive and hunt. The challenger could end it at any time by submitting. Or die trying. Krax was impressive. 3 meters tall, covered in natural armor scales. Claws that could tear through metal. Speed and strength far beyond human capability. He was built for killing. Hyun was smaller, slower, weaker. But he had something Krax didn't. He had practiced persistence hunting. He understood what it meant to never stop. The first day was brutal. Krax attacked immediately, using his size and strength. Hyun ran. He led the Vraxian through difficult terrain. Up steep slopes. Through thick brush, always moving. Never stopping. The second day, Krax tried ambush tactics. Hiding. Waiting. But Hyun tracked him. Found every hiding spot. Forced him to move. The pattern was forming. The Vraxian was fast and strong, but Hyun was relentless. By the third day, Krax was tired. His movements were slower. He stopped trying to ambush. He just tried to rest. But Hyun wouldn't let him. Every time Krax stopped, Hyun appeared. Not attacking, just present, watching. Those human eyes always focused, always tracking. The fourth day brought rain, cold and miserable. Krax was shivering. Vraxians were cold-blooded. The temperature was affecting him badly. Hyun was uncomfortable too, but he had better temperature regulation. He kept moving, kept following. On the fifth day, Krax made a mistake. He tried to cross a river to lose his trail. But he was exhausted. The current swept him downstream. He barely made it to shore. When he crawled onto the rocks, Hyun was already there, waiting, watching. The sixth day, Krax stopped running. He found a defensible position in some rocks and prepared to make a stand. He had wounds from the terrain. He was dehydrated, exhausted, but he was still dangerous. Still deadly in close combat. Hyun didn't attack. He just waited nearby, visible, present. Those eyes never leaving the Vraxian, hour after hour. As the sun set and rose again, as the seventh day began, Krax finally understood. This was the hunt. Not violence. Not strength. Just presence. The human would never stop watching. Never stop following. Never give up. It didn't matter how strong Krax was. It didn't matter how deadly his claws were. Because Hyun would just keep coming. Forever if necessary. On the morning of the seventh day, Hyun approached the rocks where Krax waited. The Vraxian watched him come. For a long moment they stared at each other. Human eyes meeting reptilian eyes. Krax tried to hold the gaze. He really tried. But his instincts were too strong. The ancient fear response kicked in. He looked away, and in that moment he knew he had lost. "I submit," Krax said quietly. Hyun climbed up to the rocks and extended his hand. After a moment, Krax took it. Hyun helped pull the exhausted Vraxian to his feet. "You are strong," Hyun said. "Stronger than me, faster than me, better equipped to survive. You could have killed me in direct combat. But you never stopped," Krax said. "That is your strength. Not muscles, not claws, just persistence." "Yes," Hyun said. "And that's why your people feel fear when looking at us. Not because you're weak, because your instincts are smart. They recognize a predator that doesn't give up. That's not something to be ashamed of." Krax looked at him. Really looked. Those human eyes were tired but focused. Still alert even after 7 days of hunting. "I understand now," the Vraxian said. "This fear, it is respect, acknowledgement of what you are." As the rescue ships arrived to extract them, millions watched. They had seen the entire hunt, seen how persistence triumphed over strength, seen how a human never stopped coming. And in the command centers tracking the swarm invasion, coalition officers began to understand something. The swarm used shock tactics, fast, overwhelming force. But what happens when you face an enemy that doesn't shock? That doesn't overwhelm? That just keeps coming day after day until you break? They were about to find out. The war room had become their home. 3 months since the swarm invasion began. 3 months of constant fighting. Commander Nari Park studied the tactical displays with tired eyes. The situation had stabilized, but the cost had been terrible. After Krax's challenge, everything had changed. Coalition forces had reorganized. Every combat unit now included human members. Not to fight, just to be present. To provide that steady, unwavering presence that calmed panicked warriors and unsettled attacking forces. It was working. Slowly, painfully. But it was working. Hyun-Lee entered the room carrying data pads. He had been promoted to Joint Military Commander alongside Krax. The Vraxian had kept his word. After the hunt, he had become humanity's strongest advocate. Together they had rebuilt coalition military doctrine from the ground up. "Latest reports from the front," Hyun said, placing the pads on the table. "The swarm is adapting. They've stopped using pure shock tactics. They're trying sustained engagements now." Commander Park reviewed the data. "Because the shock tactics stopped working. Once our forces realized they could withstand the initial assault, the swarm's advantage disappeared." Taeyang looked up from his computer. He had been analyzing swarm behavior patterns for weeks. "That's not quite accurate. The swarm is effective at sustained combat. Better than us, actually. But they're making mistakes. Tactical errors that don't make sense." "What kind of errors?" Mira asked. She had been working with combat stress casualties, helping soldiers cope with the psychological toll of the war. "Retreats when they should press the advantage," Taeyang explained. "Breaking off attacks that they're winning. It's like they don't know how to handle extended campaigns. They expect quick victories or quick defeats." Hyun leaned forward. "Show me the battle data from the Karis system." Taeyang pulled up the files. The Battle of Karis had lasted 6 days. Human-led forces had held the system through constant pressure. The swarm had eventually withdrawn despite having numerical superiority. "Look at their command patterns," Hyun said, pointing to the tactical display. "They commit forces. When the battle doesn't resolve quickly, they pull back, then commit again elsewhere. They're not retreating because they're losing. They're retreating because the battle is taking too long." Commander Park felt something click in her mind. They can't handle persistence. They're pure ambush predators. Hit hard, win fast, or move on. Extended campaigns confuse them. That's my theory, Taeyang said. I've been comparing their tactics to Earth predators, lions, tigers, crocodiles, all ambush hunters. They expend massive energy on a single attack. If it fails, they give up and find easier prey. The swarm is doing the same thing. Mira stood and paced the room. But we're not easier prey. Every time they withdraw and attack somewhere else, we're already there. Because we don't give up systems easily. We defend stubbornly. We make them work for every inch. We're persistence hunting them, Hyun said quietly, just like our ancestors did on Earth. We're making every battle long, every victory expensive. We're exhausting them. Commander Park called up fleet deployment data. If this is true, we need to change our strategy. Stop trying to defeat them in single battles. Instead, we engage them everywhere. Make them fight on multiple fronts. Never let them rest. Never let them choose easy targets. That will cost us, Hyun warned. More ships. More lives. Extended campaigns are expensive. But we can sustain it, Commander Park said. Humans evolved for endurance. And the Coalition has the resources. The question is, can the swarm maintain this pace? Or will they eventually break? Over the next 6 months, they put the strategy into action. Every swarm incursion was met with stubborn resistance. Coalition forces, with human commanders leading mixed units, fought prolonged defensive battles. They didn't always win, but they always made the swarm work hard for victory. The swarm began showing strain. Their attacks became less coordinated. They started avoiding systems with heavy human presence. Intelligence reports showed confusion in their command structure. They had never faced an enemy like this before. Taeyang made the final breakthrough while analyzing captured swarm technology. They're hive-minded, he explained during the morning briefing. But not like we thought. Each ship operates semi-independently. They share information, but each one makes tactical decisions based on ingrained programming. What kind of programming? Commander Park asked. Ambush predator programming, Taeyang said. Assess target. Attack if vulnerable. Retreat if resistant. Find new target. It's simple and effective against most species. But against persistence hunters, it creates cascading errors. Each ship retreats independently when battles drag on. The fleet loses cohesion. They can't maintain extended campaigns because their fundamental programming doesn't account for enemies that refuse to be intimidated or exhausted. Cracks entered the room at that moment. The Vraxian commander looked better than he had in months. The war had been hard on him, but he had proven himself time and again. We've received a communication from the swarm, he said. Everyone froze. The swarm had never communicated before. What did they say? Commander Park asked. They're withdrawing, Crack said, from all Coalition space. They didn't give reasons. Just coordinates showing their retreat path. They're leaving. The room erupted in questions. Hyun raised his hand for quiet. Did they indicate if they would return? No, Crack said. But our intelligence analysis suggests they won't. The swarm conquers galaxies by overwhelming weaker civilizations quickly. We made every battle long and costly. We demonstrated that we won't break. To them, we're not worth the energy expenditure. They're moving on to find easier prey. Commander Park sat down slowly. We won. Not through superior force. Not through advanced technology. We won because we were too stubborn to quit. Just like our ancestors, Mira said with a tired smile, running down prey that was faster and stronger. Never stopping. Never giving up. It's in our nature. The victory celebrations lasted a week. Every world in the Coalition marked the swarm's departure. But for Commander Park and her team, there was one final ceremony to attend. The Coalition capital hosted a memorial service for all those lost in the war. Millions had died, entire fleets destroyed, worlds damaged. The cost had been terrible, but they had survived. Commander Park stood at the memorial podium. Below her, thousands of beings from hundreds of species gathered. Prey and predator, warrior and scholar, all united by shared sacrifice. She began her speech without notes. We learned many things during this war. About courage, about persistence, about the difference between fear and wisdom. But the most important lesson was this: we are stronger together than we ever could be apart. She paused and looked out at the crowd. Her eyes swept across the assembly. Predator species met her gaze briefly, then looked away. It was instinct. But now there was no shame in it, only understanding. Humans evolved as persistence hunters, she continued. We chased prey until it fell. It's in our eyes, in our nature. When other predators see us, Some ancient part of them recognizes this, recognizes a hunter that never stops. And yes, that creates fear. But fear is not weakness. Fear is wisdom. Fear is what kept our ancestors alive long enough to become the beings we are today. Crack stood in the front row. He nodded slowly. The swarm learned what that means, Commander Park said. They faced an enemy that refused to break. That kept coming, battle after battle, never giving up. It wasn't any single victory that defeated them. It was our collective refusal to be defeated. Human persistence, Vraxian courage, the resilience of every species in this coalition. Together we became unstoppable. She finished her speech and stepped down. As she walked through the crowd, beings of all species nodded respectfully. Some met her eyes briefly. Others looked away. But there was no fear now. Only respect, understanding. Later that evening, the core team gathered one final time. Taeyang, Mira, Hyun, Commander Park, and Krax, 5 beings who had changed the galaxy. What happens now? Taeyang asked. We build something better, Commander Park said. A coalition based on honesty, on understanding, on accepting what we are and working with it rather than hiding from it. The Interspecies Institute is already receiving funding, Mira added. We'll teach every species about these biological factors, help them understand their own responses and those of others. And humans will learn to use our effect responsibly. Hyun said, we're training mediators, peacekeepers, people who understand the power of presence without abusing it. Krax raised a glass. To persistence. To courage. To the wisdom of fear. And to the strangest alliance in galactic history, predators and prey, working together because we finally understand each other. They drank together. 5 beings who had discovered a truth that changed everything. Human eyes were frightening to predators, not because of malice, not because of aggression, but because they represented something fundamental, something that evolution had written into the galaxy billions of years ago. The hunter that never stops coming, the one that tracks you across days and distances, that maintains focus when others would give up, that looks at you with those forward-facing eyes with that visible white sclera showing exactly where attention is directed, and never looks away. That is what other species saw when they met a human's gaze. Not a threat, not an enemy, but something more primal. The recognition that you are facing a creature whose ancestors ran down gods, who evolved to pursue the impossible until it became possible. 5 years later, the galaxy had changed. The coalition had restructured. Transparency about biological factors had improved cooperation between species. Conflicts were mediated by trained professionals who understood the psychological aspects of interspecies interaction. Humans served as peacekeepers across coalition space. Not because they were warriors, but because their presence reminded everyone of what persistence looked like. What it meant to never give up. And in the deep archives sealed for future generations was a simple message. Written by Commander Nari Park on the day the war ended. To those who come after us, remember that fear is not weakness. Courage is not the absence of fear. And the greatest strength is not in fighting, but in refusing to stop. We are all predators in our own way. We are all prey in others. What matters is that we choose to understand rather than conquer, to persist rather than dominate. That is the lesson humanity brought to the stars, and it is the lesson that saved us all. In a universe full of species that evolved as hunters or hunted, humanity had found its place, not as conquerors, not as victims, but as the ones who never stopped coming, the ones whose eyes carried the weight of 1,000,000 years of persistence, the ones who, when they locked onto a goal, would pursue it across space and time until it was achieved. And every predator species in the galaxy, when they looked into those human eyes, understood one simple truth: this one never stops.